What's up everyone, AGDQ here. Some of you may know that I work on the interstitials team at Games Done Quick, or GDQ. If you're ever watching AGDQ or SGDQ and there's programming in between runs that features on-screen talent, for the last few years my colleague Kung Fu Fruit Cup and I have likely had a hand in it. At AGDQ 2024, I was given the opportunity to present a science demonstration on literally whatever topic I wanted. An organization called LabX, which is a group dedicated to science communication, were sponsoring a few hours of the stream, and they requested that I give a talk on something. I chose to speak about magnets and how they work. Then at AGDQ 2026 this year, they again asked for me to do it, and again gave me carte blanche to pick the topic. What you're about to watch is both of those science demonstrations cut together and permanently publicly viewable on YouTube for the first time since they were originally streamed. Enjoy and keep thinking scientifically. Hello, AGDQ. My name is ADEF, and I am joined by the ever-incredible Ruby Hart. Ruby, how are you?
I'm doing fantastically. It's been a great day. How about you, ADEF?
It's been fantastic. Are you ready to do this?
I'm so ready to do this. For full disclosure, I have no idea what's about to happen, and I cannot wait.
Okay, well, everybody, you may know that I am a speedrunner and a streamer, but you may not know that I, like many people in the speedrunning community, have a STEM background. I studied the sciences. I have a master's in physics, and I am beyond excited to be presenting this AGDQ speedrunning science session presented by LabX, which is presented by the National Academy of Sciences. Their mission is to promote science education through content and outreach, and I'm just really excited to be helping them in that, in this small way. So, at AGDQ, we support the Prevent Cancer Foundation, PCF, and PCF's, one of their big missions is about preventative measures, right? So, finding early cancer detection methods. Now, one of the primary ways to do this in the modern world is MRIs.
Okay.
So what do you know about like an MRI machine?
My brother actually had to have them quite a bit growing up, so I understand that you go into a device that you have to stand still in for the sake of it, getting an accurate read, scanning the body, and it allows you to get a more clear reading on things that are happening inside the body. Is that about right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It allows us to see, whether it be cancerous cells or tumors within the body. It's an amazing piece of technology, but MRI stands for magnetic resonance imagery. Or imaging. So it uses highly powerful electromagnets to create high-resolution images of parts of the body. So, this kind of begs the question that's been posed originally in 2009 by the Insane Clown Posse. Magnets, how do they work?
Amazing joke, but also, the best that I can think of is I know that magnets have on different sides a positive charge and a negative charge. And the opposites to those will attract towards each other.
Yes.
And then if you put the same sides towards each other, so a positive and a positive or a negative and a negative, they will bounce off.
Great.
Outside of that, if as far as all the other little details, I'm clueless.
Okay, well, fantastic. I think that a lot of people understand physiologically or physically how a magnet works because they've used them, but nobody really knows how they work inside. So my goal today is to give you a crash course on magnets and electromagnets, as that's what's used inside of MRIs. Because I want to give you a little snapshot into how amazing this technology is. So I have here two neodymium magnets. Now, neodymium is a metal that it just has a high propensity to be magnetic. And so they're not incredibly strong magnets, but they're decently powerful. You can check them out here.
You said they're really high propensity magnets. Do you know what the difference is between some of the weaker magnets and
I will get into it.
Absolutely.
I will get into it.
Great.
Yes, so the first thing I want to do just to prove to you that this isn't some trick, these really are magnets, I have here just a normal compass, and I can actually put that down on our close-up camera here. We've got a compass here, and the compass typically points towards true north, obviously, via the Earth's magnetic field. But if I take a magnet and put it close to the compass, obviously I'm going to influence, because now I've introduced a stronger, much more local magnetic field. So just to prove to you, these are magnets. They do work.
Okay, great.
The next thing I want to do is actually show sort of what a magnetic field is, because we have that intuition of like, okay, if I get the magnets close to each other, they're definitely going to attract. But what's going on there? Why is there some external thing coming out of this? So I'm actually going to show you a magnetic field. Now, some of you may have done this when you were in high school, but I think this is a beautiful demonstration of magnetic field, and I really want to do it. So I've got a blank piece of printer paper here, and I'm just going to place the magnet below the printer paper, and then I have here iron filings. So this is just finely ground iron. It's also sometimes called iron sand. And if I open it and just sprinkle some of it onto the page, you can see that as I sort of shift the page or shift the magnet, you can see that these lines start to appear, and really right next to the two poles, you have these really spiky bits, these weird things sort of shooting out of the poles.
They almost look crystalline.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
basically what's happening here is if you look at these like fine curves coming out and these big distributions pulling out from the sides, those are our magnetic field lines. That's the area of effect.
Okay.
And then these spikes are just the 3D bit coming out of the paper. Because it's not just one flat 2D plane of magnetic field, it's coming out and below. So those little spikes are sort of what's coming out.
Yeah, basically we're getting a radius of
Yeah, exactly, and it's all around, like sort of like a cylinder.
Okay, great.
So that's the first weird thing. Magnets are very strange.
Cool.
Yeah, they're very cool, and you know, I can mess with that all day. Okay, you're all right?
I'm good, just stepping on a wire.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
We're highly mobile. The interesting thing about this magnetic field is that with magnetic field, there is electric field. Now, what does the word electromagnetism mean to you?
Electromagnetism, oh God, I feel like this is something I learned about in school, but almost like when you haven't studied something in elementary school, it just leaves you. So
yeah, for sure. So this really smart guy called James Clerk Maxwell in the 1800s sort of was able to put into mathematics this concept that had been misunderstood for a long time, which is basically if I put current, electrical current, like let's say I have a battery and a light bulb, and I've got a wire in between. So I'm just passing electric current through that wire. As I pass that current and the electrons start to move, I generate a magnetic field around the wire. Now, this is the interesting thing.
Okay.
And this is when I'm going to explain what a magnet is. Okay, inside everything you have electrons, right? Electrons are one of the core building blocks of the atom.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Electrons have electric charge. They are the basis of electricity. But electrons also spin. They are a spinning thing. As they spin, they generate a magnetic field. This is just an intrinsic property of electricity, is that when you have an alternating electric current, you can create magnetic field. So all of these little electrons, every electron in the universe is creating a little bit of magnetic field. In most objects, though, this net magnetic field cancels out because all the electrons are spinning in different directions and it doesn't really matter. This is why, so let's say steel, the metal that your refrigerator might be made of. Your refrigerator is not inherently magnetic. It's not like jumping over to the oven every day.
Yeah.
But
that
if
might be a little dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a small OSHA violation in there somewhere. But if I take the magnet and put it close, then I'm aligning the electrons in that local small part of the refrigerator to point in the same direction. So a magnet is just a metal that has all of its little electrons, all bazillions of them, that are all rotating in a like direction, causing none of the magnetic fields to cancel. They're all adding together to create a net property of this.
That's really
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Okay, so I can show this to you.
Yes, please.
So small flashing lights warning. If you have a little bit of light sensitivity, perhaps look away. But this is a cathode ray tube television, a CRT.
Yep,
we
very familiar with
we love a CRT, and I'll pop down here next to our little guy. Okay, so this is just static. There's just static coming on the screen right now. Thank you to our friends at World 9 for providing this. They said I could destroy it. So I've been given express permission. I don't think that will happen, though. He will not be harmed. Okay, but what is going on in a CRT is there is a high-density beam of electrons being shot from the back to the front. And as those electrons hit the screen, scanning, hence scan lines from left to right and top to bottom, they hit these little things called phosphors on the screen, and they light up. That's how CRT works. But if I just turn the CRT on and it was just that beam of electrons, it'd all just be concentrated right here. But there are electromagnets surrounding the beam that bend and deflect the electrons.
Oh, that way they spread out and actually fill out the screen.
And I can show these electrons moving to you by putting the magnet on the screen.
Oh, okay.
So I can literally rotate, and hopefully that, yeah, you can see that just a little bit. The flicker makes it a little hard, but you can see those sort of poles, those circular parts. Those are our same magnetic field lines being present right now as I, ooh, yeah, baby, there we go.
Well, and I was gonna say, even you can see that the shape, much like what we saw on the paper, is very, very similar. That's so cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you believe me that electrons can be changed and modified by magnets.
Yes.
Okay, great. What is the next thing on my notes? Okay. What things do you inherently know that are magnetic? Like, what do you think of when you think of this is a magnet?
Oh, God.
Like a kitchen magnet, maybe?
Yeah, Honestly, the main things I think of are either kitchen magnets that you use to like stick onto the door of the fridge,
Right,
like
right.
pictures, things like that, usually that have like a pizza place's phone number on them, things like that.
The classic magnet.
The classic,
The pizza place. So the interesting thing is that we have things called temporary magnets and permanent magnets. So this is a permanent magnet because no matter what I do to it, well, that's not no matter what I do to it, but essentially, it is going to be magnetic for as long as we're alive and probably a long time after.
Okay.
So we call those permanent magnets. Now, like I described earlier, when I put the magnet near the refrigerator door and it becomes temporarily magnetic, that's a temporary magnet. But both are examples of something in science called ferromagnetism. F-E-R-R-O, magnetism.
Okay,
so
where does that come from?
Great, so the Latin word ferros means iron. And the reason for that is because the original magnets, because if I tell you that there are no naturally occurring magnets, what does that mean to you?
Honestly, it means that there must have been some kind of innovation. We didn't start having the understanding of electricity, but we eventually figured out how electrons work and were able to influence that. So the best way I can think is that scientists figured out which kinds of metals kind of aligned.
Sure, yeah, so you're definitely on the right track. Okay. So there is this really interesting thing. Do you know what a lodestone is?
Not at all.
Audience, clap if you know what a lodestone is. Okay, a couple people. Wait, now be honest. How many of you, and be honest, clap if it's only because you've played Minecraft. Okay,
great.
Okay, so we have some honesty. That's good, that's good. So thousands and thousands of years ago, our ancestors found these objects that they called lodestones, and they were the ancient compass. So basically, they were these rocks that they didn't know what magnetism was, but this thing, if you put it in like a bucket of water, would orient itself to true north so they could find out how to get home. Turns out, this is called magnetite. It's an iron ore, so it's just a rock that is high iron concentration.
Okay.
And there is no known consensus on why this particular thing became magnetized, because the Earth's magnetic field is not strong enough. Because to magnetize something like this, something like my neodymium magnet, you have to use a very powerful electromagnet to permanently magnetize this. Now, this thing has a high propensity to become magnetic, but it's not intrinsic. One of the leading theories, and my personal favorite, is that a bunch of years ago, magnetite was struck by lightning, and this lightning permanently magnetized this random rock, which I think is pretty cool.
And then suddenly we figured out how to magnetize other objects.
With the original, so it could all like be traced back. It's like a mother lineage back to the magnetite. And I can actually show you magnetizing something. If we could get a close-up on our hands here. I'm gonna hand you this paper clip. I'm gonna let you put that in your palm right there.
Perfect.
And this is another paper clip, and as you can see, that is not magnetic. The paper clip is not picking up the other paper clip. But if I then go in here and I temporarily magnetize, I'm just causing all the electrons. Some people have probably seen this before. I can now pick up, hopefully, ideally, the other paper clip.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So this will not last forever, but it might last like a minute because these are pretty strong magnets. But again, that is not a magnetic object, but it is temporarily because I have used a magnet to create a magnet.
Okay, so then a question about that.
Yeah.
So you said that it takes a much, or an object with a greater field of electromagnetism in order to cause something else to be magnetized. Is it also based on like the amount of time that it is exposed?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I have not worked in magnetism labs, but I know that there are machines you can buy for labs that have powerful electromagnets in them, and you basically like put the metal in and turn it on, and then it becomes a magnet, or you like pass it through, basically. They are very dangerous. So maybe don't buy one.
Yeah, don't try this at home. Don't try, well, you can try this at home, but not that other piece.
If anybody wants more information to find out why some things are able to be magnetized better or more permanently, the sea of electrons would be a good thing to Google. If you want to study solid state physics, that's all you, baby. Okay, so the final few demos I want to do here are about electromagnets, because, okay, we understand magnetism. We know that with an electric field propagating, we have sort of a perpendicular magnetic field. So the fun way we like to visualize this in physics is if you imagine the electric current is your thumb moving down the wire. Let's say I have a wire going this way. my fingers curl around to represent the magnetic field that's being produced.
Since it's just all on the outside.
All those electrons passing through the wire are moving and spinning, and it's causing a magnetic field to curl around. Okay, so this is something when you're doing electronics, you have to be very cognizant of this. If you have high current, you need to shield the wire so that you don't magnetize the things that are right around it. So I can actually show you a really cool example of this.
Yeah.
There is something called Faraday's law, a very smart physicist called Faraday.
Okay.
And here I have a thing everybody owns, which is a 6-foot copper tube.
Oh, yeah, in every.
Please, everybody, get out your 6-foot copper tubes now. If you didn't bring it, well, that's on you. Okay, so let me pick up that magnet I just dropped. Okay, so Faraday's law.
With anything here?
Just be enthused.
Great. Already am.
Ooh, we're super wide now.
Oh.
Okay, so this tube is not magnetic. Copper is not a naturally magnetic metal. So if I put the magnet near it, nothing is happening. You can try as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Faraday's law states basically, is the statement of when I pass magnetic field through a conductive material like copper, because copper is a very good conductor of electricity. Copper is used to make tons of wires and things. I will produce a magnetic field. Now, as the magnet moves down the tube, it will generate an electric field in the tube because the magnetic field that's moving downwards, Faraday's law states it should generate an electric current in the tube as it passes down. The interesting thing is that we know, after just talking about it, electric field makes magnetic field. So then the electric field will in turn make its own magnetic field coming in the other direction. So first, I'm gonna drop this paper clip. This is a big little paper clip here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that when I drop it, it just passes right through. I don't know how visible that is on camera, but I promise you, it just passed right through. There is nothing inside of the tube. Again, impossible to
Can attest, can confirm.
However, if I put the magnets in, and maybe if I even put my microphone close to it, you'll be able to see it takes about 3 or 4 times as long to pass through the tube. Yeah. And I can do it again if we can track the close-up on me dropping it and then the bottom.
Here, and let's hold it a little higher.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna help, yeah.
There you go. And once you cut to it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's happening. Okay.
Yeah!
So as soon as I drop this in, go ahead and tilt down to the bottom of the tube. So I drop the magnet in and go.
Yeah.
It takes it's hard to even describe how strange this is.
Yeah, it's at least 2 seconds slower.
Yeah, so this is called magnetic braking. This is how roller coasters keep you from dying.
Okay.
So roller coaster, especially more modern roller coasters or like maglev trains, will use magnetic braking, basically inducing a magnetic field in the opposite direction for a slow but very powerful and smooth braking experience.
And this would be with steel roller coasters, I'm assuming.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a wooden coaster, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. My roller coaster tycoon days are far behind me.
That's fair.
Okay, there is one final thing I want to show before we sign off here. And because I can induce an electric field with a magnetic field, if I could kill these lights really quick, we have here, and let's zoom in. Actually, let's turn it back on for 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay, this is a very strange looking object that I constructed this week. It took me like 5 tries. So please clap.
Yeah!
Thank you. Shout outs to C Average, who sat with me for 2 hours while I coiled wire. And shout out to the team at World 9 for helping me to get this to work. Okay, so I have 1,500 turns of copper wire around this plastic tube. Okay, so the plastic tube is non-conductive and it's just wrapped with 1,500 turns of copper wire. And then on the circuit, I just have coming out of the wire a red LED and a green LED. Okay. There is no battery, there is no power supply. Okay? I think you can guess what's gonna happen.
I have a feeling that the wire, the electromagnetism is going to actually power these 2 lights.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Great.
I'm gonna convert the gravitational potential energy into kinetic energy by dropping the magnet. It'll turn into kinetic energy as it passes, and then it'll go through the coil of the wire as electromagnetism, right, as electric field, electrical energy. That will pass into LEDs, and then, God willing, it works. Okay, let's kill the lights. Let's go to close-up, if possible, on this guy. And if you could just put your hand cup your hands right below.
Yep, you got it.
And I really hope this works.
Ooh!
Isn't that so strange?
That's so wild. Here.
Okay, so the final thing I will leave you with here is that this is how all power generation works in the world, basically. And if we can get the lights back up. If I think about a wind turbine, or a hydroelectric dam. I have a massive turbine that is spinning from wind. But how do I turn that wind and that movement into electricity? Well, I just put magnets on the interior disk of the turbine, and then those magnets pass over coils and turn that into electrical energy. That's how basically every generator works in the world. Now, solar panels are a different thing, but maybe if we do this again, I'll do quantum instead.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, that was my little Magnets 101.
Yeah.
I want to thank LabX, presented by the National Academy of Sciences, for sponsoring this block of games and segments. It is so cool to do science outreach. I'm really passionate about the sciences.
Yep, and if I may also,
yeah,
the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, they do so much incredible work to make sure to make a ton of information accessible all across the world with their committees. So just, if you haven't looked into some of the research from the academies, I highly recommend doing so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the final thing I would say is just, please, if you are interested in the sciences, or if you are a parent and your children are interested in the sciences, there has been no more important time in human history to have people thinking critically and asking inquisitive questions. So please encourage your kids to study STEM. We need scientists and engineers, and we love them very much. Thank you very much. I've been ADEF. This has been Ruby Hart. More GDQ coming up. I love the enthusiasm for my boy Bill Nye. Can we hear it one more time for that amazing run of Bill Nye? Bill. You know, inertia is a property of matter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, science rules.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Welcome everybody. This is the GDQ science demonstration. I am ADEF and I am joined by Ruby Hart. Ruby, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you, ADEF?
I'm excited. This is presented by LabX, a program of the National Academy of Sciences. Ruby and I actually did this 2 years ago. We had the fortune of this amazing segment where we're basically just allowed to talk about science. For those of you that don't know, I am a speedrunner, but I also have a background in the sciences. I studied physics in college and I got my master's in physics, and LabX said, talk about science. So we're here to do it again. Last time I did magnets. This time I want to talk about something that has been on my mind for a couple of years and probably on a lot of your minds. And I want to sort of demystify some things that I think a lot of people don't know. And I'm talking about energy generation. So specifically, how do we as humans take what is around us and create electricity? Because I think this is a really important thing, especially now with the climate crisis, understanding how energy is made. I mean, it courses through everything in our lives, our phones, our walls, everything. And so I think understanding that a little bit better, maybe demystifying some things, some misconceptions, or confirming some things you already knew is really helpful.
And a lot of the just bridge of, yes, we can make energy with kinetic energy, or we can use wind turbines and things like that. I know what a lot of those sources are, but not how it actually gets converted. So this
well,
is
then
great.
Let's get into it. So I do want to start broadly with energy, the term energy. What does that mean to you?
To me, energy means the force that keeps something moving, whether that be with your body, like exuding energy for the sake of moving yourself from one place to another. The same follows with mechanics, etc.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first, you actually mentioned it, kinetic energy is the first thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So kinetic energy is just the energy of something in motion. Anything in motion has kinetic energy. So, you know, if I drop my marker, it has kinetic energy as it falls. In physics, we represent energy a couple of different ways. I'm going to do my favorite way, which is capital E. I think it's very clear. So we've got capital E for energy. And we're going to talk about several different kinds of energy today. So to denote which one is which, I'm going to use a subscript, and I'll use subscript K. We call this E sub K. That's how you would pronounce that, and that's kinetic energy. That is among the worst Ks I've ever drawn in my life, so we're off to a great start.
I don't think anyone's judging you on art here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're fine.
So the first question then is, so I had my marker, right? And I held it at a height and dropped it.
Yeah.
It had kinetic energy, but what was causing that kinetic energy as I dropped it?
The gravity.
Excellent. So when I raise my marker to a height, it has some potential energy. And in physics, we represent potential energy with a capital, I'll put it over here, a capital U. So we don't use P because P is power. And so U sub G for gravitational potential energy. So as I drop the marker, it converts from gravitational potential, whoop, I dropped it all the way, to kinetic energy, also sometimes called mechanical energy. And the reason I think this is important to talk about and why I think because any energy capture requires converting energy from one form to another. You can almost think of me holding the marker at a height as like a gravitational battery, right?
Okay,
I have
yeah.
stored energy in the form of raising the marker up, and then when I release it, the energy is used.
So the potential energy, it's sitting in the object and it can be used once it's actually
Yeah,
put in motion.
it's a little nebulous, right? It's not like
Yeah.
in the object, it's like stored in the gravitational field or whatever, but that's basically right.
Yeah.
So obviously we have actual batteries, right? We have actual literal, this is a nondescript store-bought D battery. It doesn't have a logo, and you know what it is. So this battery stores chemical potential energy. So that's another form of energy we have. We have potential, I'm gonna call it U sub C, or potential chemical energy. So inside of a battery is a chemical process waiting to take place. We have a chemical reaction that's sort of just standing. Oh, I pulled the battery away right as they cut to it. This is holding chemical potential energy inside of it, and when I put it in a circuit, then the electrical energy can be converted out of that potential chemical energy, right? So then we've got E, and we'll call it E sub E, electrical energy. So far we have kinetic energy, gravitational potential, chemical potential, and electrical energy, right? So those are the things we're broadly going to be talking about today. And imagine something like this.
Yeah.
Instead of dropping my marker, I put my battery in a small electric toy car. So the battery has chemical potential. When I put it in the toy car and turn it on, that's converted into electrical energy. Then that electrical energy goes through the circuit in the car and turns the wheels. That's kinetic energy. So now I've done sort of a two-step process where I have started here, I've converted to this, and then that converts to this. This is how energy transfer works. Obviously, we're not talking about the nitty-gritty, the actual physical process.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that, but this is kind of the overview.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hope that sort of gives us a baseline where we can talk about, okay, now how do we do this in the real world? The first important thing to note is that there's this field of study in physics called thermodynamics, and the first law of thermodynamics dictates, well, actually, audience, does anybody know the first law of thermodynamics? Almost in unison, like 25 people just said, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Let's get a round of applause for the audience. Excellent. Okay, so energy can't be created or destroyed. It has to come from somewhere, okay? So imagine, and I'm gonna introduce one more form of energy, I realize.
Great.
I have a rubber band, right? And imagine I stretch the rubber band. I have imparted, you could call it kinetic potential energy, but we do have a word for this. This is elastic potential energy.
Okay.
And obviously it's based on the material properties of the rubber band, right? It is
A rubber band or a slingshot or something like that would carry this property.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay.
Even your elbow has like elastic potential, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the rubber band has elastic potential energy, and when I release it, it converts into kinetic energy, right? As it moves through the room. But what moved the rubber band?
You.
Me, my fingers, right? Where did that energy come from? Okay, so I imparted kinetic energy, which I converted into the elastic potential of the rubber band. But I had to move my fingers, which required me to use the energy in my cells, which was some kind of chemical potential or electrical potential energy. Well, where did that come from? Well, I ate food this afternoon. Let's say I had...
That's the fuel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a salad, and that salad, that food had chemical potential inside of it. Okay, well, where did that come from? Well, the plants were in the ground, and the sunlight caused photosynthesis, and we converted that nuclear energy from the sun into the chemical potential energy. So I just want to paint this picture that like everything has a path. There's almost like a genesis for every single bit of energy. You could even follow the sun back to the Big Bang. Everything comes from something. So the first thing I want to talk about is a very shoddy little circuit that I made. Electrical engineers, please don't judge me.
A round of applause, come on.
Okay, so this is a breadboard. It's a very simple way to demo circuits. This is a DC motor that stands for direct current motor. And I am going to use my D battery. In fact, Ruby, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna hold the motor.
Yeah.
Just touch this contact, big end to small end to big end. And as Ruby touches, and if we could get the close-up again, as Ruby touches the D battery to the thing, we should, maybe the other way. There we go, it starts to spin, here. So take it off for a second.
That's cool.
Okay, so this is this isn't surprising. You plug the battery into the thing, it moves. Great. But what is fascinating is that this process is reversible. So If you've ever driven an electric car and you've had magnetic braking to regain energy, it is the exact same principle I'm about to describe.
That's cool.
So let's say instead of the battery powering the motor, I use the motor to charge the battery. So it's hard to display this with a battery that has lots of charge left in it, and obviously we can't tell how much is in the D battery, but instead of using my battery here, imagine the battery was dead, and for that I am going to use an LED. So I'm going to plug an LED into this circuit, and I am going to spin the motor. And if we could kill the lights really quick. Okay, I'm gonna spin the LED, or spin the motor, and you can see it powers the LED briefly as it spins.
Because you're creating energy on the other side, which is then producing the light.
It's the exact same process, just in reverse. I am literally just, and you can even see it with the lights on, which is nice. I am literally doing the exact opposite process. And what is going on inside of this motor, and if you want a refresher, you can watch last time's segment from 2 years ago. There are magnets inside of the motor, and when I plug the battery into the motor, the electromagnets are in opposite polarity, and they spin when electricity is imparted in them, causing it to move. But I'm doing the opposite. I am spinning the motor, which means I'm spinning the magnets, and when the magnets pass over each other, they power the circuit.
That's so cool.
This is, in principle, how almost every single energy capture device humanity has ever made works. Almost to a T. Let's go back a couple hundred years to a grain mill. Let's say we have a water mill for a grain mill, right? We've got a water wheel. Okay, so if we go back to our system, right?
Yeah.
We've got water atop a waterfall, which is which one of these?
Oh, I would say that would be potential.
Yes, we've got gravitational potential in the form of water at the top of a waterfall. The water starts to fall. Now that gravitational potential is being converted into kinetic energy, right?
And because the water is constantly moving.
Exactly.
Yeah,
then the water courses down the river. It's moving very fast. Water is very dense. It's very massive. And so, you know, hundreds of thousands of gallons of water moving through the river, and they turn a water wheel. That water wheel now has kinetic energy from the water, and then that water wheel turns a series of gears that turn a grain mill to, you know, pound grain. That is a 1,000-year-old technology that is using this principle. And we have modern forms of this. The first one I'm going to talk about is wind turbines, which is a very renewable, and you were talking about this a second ago.
Yeah, no, it's also just an incredible energy source that people have been trying to tap into more because of the lack of pollutants, or like significantly less than you would have from gases and oil and things
Precisely.
like that. Yeah.
And how a wind turbine works is this. You have massive, massive wings. The wind turns the turbine, and inside there is just a massive one of these, basically, a massive motor. And as we turn the wind turbine and it turns this motor, we just now have what we didn't have, you know, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, which is really elegant batteries and cells that can store that energy and pump it out to the grid. That's it. It's really just this, but massive and using wind. And the same thing is true of lots of other forms of energy, and I'm going to talk about them sort of broadly from least renewable to most renewable. Once we get to the more renewable side, I'm just going to name them as I think of them, so they're not like in exact order.
Yeah.
But we can start with coal and oil. So coal and oil, fossil fuels, very common way to power our homes and has been for many hundreds of years. And the reason for this is largely because coal burns very easy. If you've ever started a campfire or a grill with charcoal, you'll know this. It burns like instantly. And it runs very hot and very fast. And this is very good. Now, how do we capture the energy from burning coal? I mean, they were doing this 100 years ago, 200 years ago. The principle is actually quite simple. We use water again. Water is very abundant. It's very good at storing energy. Water is very good at transferring energy. So all we do is we heat up the coal or the oil or whatever we're burning, and that then in turn heats up a massive vat of water. As the water boils, steam, water vapor escapes, and we funnel it into, you're not gonna believe it, a turbine.
What? Oh my gosh, crazy.
We yet again use this principle of using, and turbines are basically just anything turned by a fluid like a gas or a water or anything like that, a liquid or a gas. We turn the turbine and then that powers our homes. But again, it's the source of turning the turbine, in essence, the source of heating up the water. In that case, coal. But there are other ways to heat up the water that doesn't require CO2 to be released into the atmosphere. Notably, nuclear energy. So nuclear energy, I think, has kind of a PR problem, if anything. I would like to ideally demystify for you all today some misconceptions you might have about nuclear power.
Yeah, please.
I'm not a nuclear scientist. I'm not lobbied by nuclear power or anything. I just think it's important for us in this day and age to harness as many renewables as we can. And we have a lot of infrastructure already set up for nuclear, so it would be a shame not to use it. So nuclear energy works via a principle called fission. Do you know anything about nuclear fission?
I heard about this in school, but it's one of those, my memory is awful and it's been years, so
Sure.
I don't remember much.
So in principle, to be very simple, we're just splitting an atom, which it's very hard to do that.
Oh, and fusion is the bringing together of
Yes,
these atoms,
exactly.
so fission is the, yeah, got it.
An easy way to think about it is that generally speaking, stars like our sun perform nuclear fusion, where atoms are fused together to create higher order atoms, whereas fission is splitting an atom. So this is unfortunately how nuclear bombs work, but also how we can power our homes with nuclear power plants.
Okay.
So nuclear fission, you're not gonna believe this, we use it because it's really hot, it releases a lot of heat, and we boil water.
What?
So
Wild.
those massive cooling towers, right? There is water there. We use the nuclear reaction to boil water. The water vapor, again, turns a turbine, which powers your home. That's it. We are just heating the water in creative ways.
Yeah.
So nuclear energy really, I mean, to oversimplify, only has two major byproducts. Water vapor, which is already a byproduct out of coal-fired power plants. If you ever see a nuclear cooling tower, that gas you see coming out, the pillow of white smoke, that is water vapor. So it is technically a greenhouse gas, but it's far less polluting than, say, carbon dioxide.
Yeah, absolutely.
So water vapor and nuclear waste. I want to demystify for you, nuclear waste, obviously scary. It is a very dangerous substance. But we, in the 4 or 5 decades we've been researching this, more than that actually, nearly 100 years now, we've gotten very good at capturing and storing nuclear waste in very safe ways. It's stored in very protective barrels, put underground, and you will literally never deal with it in your life. The big issue, obviously, is that there have been 3 major nuclear disasters in the last 100 years. Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, and Chernobyl are all disasters. Of course, nobody should have had to lose their lives 100%. However, the loss of life due to burning coal and oil and fossil fuels over the last 150, 200 years far, 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 far outmatches. It's almost impossible to comprehend the people. I mean, we're talking about PCF, people who have lung complications, cancer complications, the people who work in the mines, the animals whose lives have been completely disrupted by fracking or coal mining. Coal bad.
Yeah, it feels like, yeah, we've been so desensitized to it because that was the only method, or that was the primary method for so many years. But now there have been these 3 particular disasters, and it's really like but
there's no denying that this is a nuanced issue, and people's lives, especially here in the States, are very rooted in coal communities, and I don't deny that that is a very complex problem that someone in the government ideally would solve. But the bottom line is that we have these renewables that we can use, and nuclear energy, though it has had some big moments of disaster, is overall safe and probably powering many of your homes right now. So call your representatives. All right, so after that, we're gonna talk about hydroelectric. This one's very simple. It's just a more modern version of our water mill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna talk about one particular kind of dam, a gravity dam. Okay. So a cool name. Basically, we have water at the top in a basin, falls down the dam. You're not gonna believe this. Can you tell me what it does?
Oh my gosh, I bet it spins a turbine and it boils some water.
So this one, luckily this one doesn't have to boil any water because we're just using gravity to fall down the dam and turn the turbine.
Oh, that's great.
So dams obviously feel really great because there's like no emissions, right? We're just turning the turbines. Some dams can cause problems to ecosystems because if you dam up a massive reservoir, you could cause issues for the ecosystem. But overall, obviously, cleaner than coal and oil.
Absolutely.
Next, we will talk about what I think is pure magic. This one is the only one we're going to talk about today where you're not either boiling water to turn a turbine or using wind to turn a turbine, something to turn a turbine. Of course, I'm talking about solar energy. Okay. Solar energy is genuine, actual magic, but I am going to do my best. So Albert Einstein won his Nobel Prize, not for special relativity, but for something called the photoelectric effect.
Okay.
So the photoelectric effect is this genius bit of science where basically he observed that if you strike some metals with electrons, that electron will deflect, and when the electron deflects, a photon also comes off of the metal. So basically, he proved that you could create light by bombarding metal with electrons. This is, in principle, how our LEDs work. LEDs are light-emitting diodes. We are using the photoelectric effect and some really intelligent quantum mechanics to light up the diode inside by using this photoelectric effect.
That's so cool.
This next thing I'm about to say is genuinely the moment that caused me to go into physics in college. This blew my mind. A solar cell, the things that make up a solar panel, is an LED in reverse. Instead of using electricity to power the LED, we use a diode where we use light to generate electricity. It is the photoelectric effect just in reverse. Instead of bombarding a metal with electrons to generate a photon, we are bombarding a metal with photons to generate electrons. It is the exact principle in reverse. There is essentially no emission, obviously, other than the heat generated by a solar panel warming up or whatever, or the latent heat absorbed. And they're expensive, but they're getting cheaper all the time. Solar panels are awesome, so cool. If you're interested, highly recommend checking out more stuff about quantum mechanics, solid state physics. Solar panels are super cool. But that's generally speaking how there are a few others. There's geothermal power. You know, there are other ways to power our world. But I just want to show that, like, there are many, many renewables that we have access to, and modern science and technology and the work, you know, that is propagated by scientists are creating cheaper, more renewable, less emissions for these things all the time. And so there is really at this point no excuse. So get excited about science, about reactions, about energy, and about power generation, because it is cool. It sounds sort of, to use an unfortunate word, a little unsexy to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the nuclear power plant.
But it's not only cool, but it is so important, like you said, especially now.
Exactly.
Yeah, wholly agree.
So that's it. That's all I had for you today. Again, I want to thank LabX, a program of the National Academy of Sciences. They would like me to tell you that Bloomfall is a tabletop role-playing game centered around plants and includes a unique mechanic where you, as a player, get to do a solo adventure in between campaign sessions. LabX is hoping to launch Bloomfall this year, and until then, the quick start is freely available online for players to try an early version of the game at labx.org/Bloomfall. I can't thank LabX enough for sponsoring not just this, but this entire block of games on the AGDQ schedule. Thank you. Can we get a round of applause for LabX, please? Their mission is to propagate science communication, which is something I really believe in. But that's it for us, Ruby. Thank you so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure. Thank you,
Amazing.
ADF. Yeah.
All right, let's have some more AGDQ.